in 1947, two people passed away in the U.S. First was Amy Semple McPherson, that was the founder of the Foursquare Gospel Church, and then Dr. Price, who was also a healing evangelist. And T.L. Osborne had gone to India with a wife as teenagers, well, maybe 18, 19. And when they got to India, they came with the Bible, which most of the time, is black, written Holy Bible. And the Muslims said to them, this is Quran, this is Bible, what's the difference? And they were not spirit-filled, but they were saved. So they could do nothing. After maybe 1 or 2 years, I don't know how long, they were frustrated because they couldn't really make a distinction between the Bible and the Quran because there are no miracles. So they came back to the US. But they came in the midst of revival. Something was going on. So there was a generation of healing evangelists. There was Jack Coe, there was Oral Roberts, there was A. Allen, W.V. Grant, and a few other people. And they attended a service. I don't know who was leading this service, but in this service, the evangelist was used by God to perform a few miracles. So T.L. Osborne went home and was crying before God. And then Amy Semple McPherson died, and then Dr. Price died. And so he was crying, and God said, they are done, they are gone, this is your time. So he said, as he was seeking God, that he had an open vision, that Jesus walked into his study. And when he walked into the study, he said, the glory he saw, he lay in a pool of his own tears. He cried so much that he was lying in a pool of his own tears. And all he said to him, they are dead. It's your time. It's your time. And T.L. Osborne said that the men of his generation were so gifted that he just left America for them and went to the nations. They were so anointed. Osborne, Jack Coe used to go and measure Oral Roberts' tent to make sure that his own is slightly bigger. They were not just gifted, they were competitive. The man just left. But however, what is significant is that for Osborne, the glory he saw was so life-transforming that he never preached much throughout his life. When it comes to a crusade, just the fact that he saw Jesus, the miracles happened. He was so changed by the encounter. He said that if you see the glory, you can't behold his face. He was so changed. Why am I going this way? For a number of reasons. One is that, but Ayodeji has laid some very solid foundations, and I want to build on that. My father was a Methodist clergyman. I was born into Methodism, trained by the British Methodist missionaries in the southeast of Nigeria. It used to be eastern Nigeria, now southeast. And so he first of all went to primary school, trekked long distances, then went to a place called Methodist College Uzuakoli and trained first as a catechist and then as a minister. Then he was ordained. So I grew up in Methodism. I grew up in two places, Enugu, and then a place called Uzuakoli, which is an old place for Methodism, So in my growing up years, I went to primary school, which was a teaching school. They used to prepare people for teaching. So they had a teaching training school, and then my school, that's training school Uzuakoli. My school was called Practicing School Uzuakoli, because that's where they did their practice. These teachers, they use us to practice, right? But it was very sound education, right? So from there, I took my common entrance, went to Government College Umaya for 1 year, and the reason I was posted to Methodist College Uzuakoli, but I told my father, I was 11, 10 to 11, I said to him that I won't go to school here because every time my siblings come back, they come in a car. This place is trekkable. I'll be trekking back. Nobody will celebrate me. So I said, I want to go so I can come back in the car. And he was a kind man. He took me to Methodist Government College Umaya, and of course, the vice principal was the Methodist principal. So when he got me, there was no way they would reject me. And of course, my grade was acceptable. So that's why they enrolled me. I spent a year. But the corporal punishment, because this is now 1980, that's just 10 years away from the war. So some of those men that fought the war were still in school. Some people don't have that history. But they were still, so the place, the discipline, you can't survive it, basically. In fact, the only time in that 1 year I was at peace is between 12 midnight and 4 a.m. The pressure was, oh my God. So I told my parents, I said, this place, if you don't want to have a dropout, this school, we have to change it all. But God was kind. I took common entrance, federal common entrance to Okigwe, Federal Government College Okigwe, to go into class 2. And somehow I was selected. So I left government college, went to Okigwe, spent the next 4 years, finished. And then my father had a large family. He was married, had 4 children. The wife passed away. Then he married my mom. My mom had 6 children, so we were 10. Now, of course, he worked so hard that we didn't even know the difference. I was almost a teenager when I knew that, we're not even from the same mom. I didn't even know that. He worked very hard. But the point is that, so they were, and I was the 8th of 10 children. So I had 2 younger ones, Ezra and Ozo, So because I had all these people ahead of me, and my father believed in education. Everybody went to college. So many of them were in the Soka, Enugu campus. One person went to Benin. That was it. I think the rest were just Enugu. So I said to myself, as I was finishing secondary school, I was just 15, turning 16. I said, this East, I'm not going to go to school in the East. I've done everything. I'm going to find my way somewhere else. So I put Isuka second or third choice. And of course, I'm sure they feel insulted. They won't take me. So I put Ife, first choice, quantity surveying. And somehow, I passed. I went to Great Ife. Great Ife. So there are many Great Ifes here. So that's why I went to Ife. He said, excuse me, only one university or Ife. And the rest. That's why I went to Ife. But when I was on campus, in Okigwe, some of our people got saved. That sweeping revival of the 70s, it was university, secondary school. When they got to my campus or my Okigwe, some of them, about a few of them, maybe less than 20, they got saved. And one of them, who is still my friend till today, he used to play soccer. And I was in the soccer team with him, senior soccer team. He played from junior to senior. I joined the senior team. So I looked at him and he said he was born again. So I looked at him. One day I called him. I said, come, what's going on? So he now said, tried to explain. Of course, this is not logical. So in my brain, I'm like, thank you. What is he talking about? Anyway, I came to one conclusion. I said, look, if something has happened to you, open this your cupboard, bring out provision, let's chop. I know that something has happened. What is your talk? Your locker is locked. You are claiming God visited you. Your locker is still locked. Bring this cabinet. I make you chop. I make I don't say you don't get saved, really. That's my conclusion. But I didn't know that brief encounter was deeper than that. So when I got to Ife, people from Deeper Life Campus Fellowship, they would come and preach. And that time, the Dake's Bible was famous. So when they carry this Bible, it's so big. And I'm like, look, my father is a preacher all my life. This Bible is so big. These teenagers, what are they doing with this big Bible? That's how they preached, though. But that encounter was the picture that God used. Reminded me of secondary school. And that's why I got saved. And then when I got saved, I was hearing, of course, you learn to hear the voice of God. So I don't even know how does God speak. When I go to services, people say, God said. In my mind, like, where did he say it? We've been together. Where? How? Where? Yeah, God said. So, but I was hearing something inside of me. And it was like a voice. It was like something like saying, what's your greatest heart desire? What do you want most out of this life? I didn't even know that God was talking to me. So I just started writing letters to everybody. What's your greatest heart desire? What do you want most out of this life? It was later it dawned on me that this was God. And then gradually, strugglingly, I understood that he was asking for my teenage years. He was asking for my life. I love soccer. I love this. And there's nothing wrong with those things. But then eventually I found that God is saying, will you give me your life? Yeah, I've given me your life to Jesus, yes. But will you give me the rest of your life? So in that campus, I was now a student of quantity surveying and Bible study. And of course, Deeper Life was very strong in Bible study. Anybody that knows the background, we had Bible study on Mondays and all that. So I took it seriously, grew through that process. And cut the long story short, at some point, I finished school, did youth service in Kano. And then when I got to Kano, an older gentleman was my prayer partner. We used to pray together. One day we were just praying. And he started prophesying. He said, God said this, that. But the only thing I remember is that he said, I will take you to America. So in my mind, I said, America, am I a failure? What am I going to do in America? Because in the generation I grew up, only people that failed JAMB went to America. When I grew up in the 80s, they were going to America. You didn't pass JAMB. No, everybody who passed JAMB, the schools were so solid. Benin, Nsukka, UI, Unilag, University of Lagos. I mean, UI was a mecca to the royal family from Saudi Arabia for medicine. So So when he said, I said, God, but I passed JAM, I finished school. That's how my mind was working. Because that's how we grew up. Because in class, we are discussing the JAM. It's only people that don't plan to pass that will say, Houston, Texas. But to cut it, to this, I'm compressing the last 30-something years. What happened was that God knew that he needed to take me away, to take things out of me that will hinder me from fulfilling the purpose he has, and put things in me that I needed but I didn't have. Because now without putting down anything, if I was deeper life and nothing happened, I can't do the things I do today. No, because God is so wise. Let me give you some secrets about God, right? The reason God puts part of us in deeper life is that in that way we avoided carnality. In deeper life, they were so holiness conscious, almost to a fault, that if you are there, you don't even know the meaning of girlfriend. In fellowship, when we enter fellowship ground, boys go like this, girls go like this. You know, before communication, you have to communicate. You have to plan. You can't communicate without communication. So there's no communication. Look, if a brother and sister are talking on fellowship ground, they will call you. Say, what are you discussing? If you say we are discussing physics, they say this is fellowship ground. Go to your lecture. Do the physics there. Here, there's no physics. I'm not exaggerating though. So I look back. It sounds funny because there was Christ's love, which is part of Oyakhilome and all these people. Those ones where they wore miniskirts, blew in tongues. We used to think these people, are they really saved? But you see, man cannot judge. In our own, women wore long dresses, no makeup. Do you understand? So, but the good side of that story is that because of that, we are kept holy on campus. Yes, I can count the number of girls I spoke to in 6 years. It's true. I mean, words are powerful. Words are powerful. Look, I'm telling you, to marry, I had to learn how to marry. But that was that. In that way, God preserved me. Okay, then took me out. When I got to America, people wear bikinis. We used to go to beach as part of being in a Bible college, just to go and do evangelism. I saw so many legs. I said, this will kill me. But you know what shocked me? You know what surprised me? My American friends, they don't even see the legs because they grew up with those legs. So me, I'm dying. Like, this is nakedness. They say, which nakedness? So life is about perspectives. It's about perspectives, okay? But I went to school with Robert Slayton Ministries in California. It was a big deal. People came there, or Roberts, many great preachers, and so on and so forth. Now, where am I going with this? After a while, I was seeing visions of dreams about Nigeria. I came back. It's a long story, but where I want to go is that I just came back from South Africa on a missions trip a few years back. Not a few years, a few weeks back. About 2 weeks ago. By the way, I live in the US. And it's a long story. God used to say to me, I will give you dual nationality. That time I don't have, none of my children was born abroad though. They were born in Yaba. I can show you the hospital. If you follow me after this service, I'll take you there. I know the doctor. They were all born there. We didn't even have hope to be praying for visa to go and have children abroad. No, they were all born here. But I lived in America for that trip, came back after 5.5 years, got married in 2000, and then my wife in 2012, just one day, just said she wants to go to Abuja to do an exam. I said, Abuja, which exam again? He said, GRE. I said, I know GMAT. What is GRE? He said, social sciences, they do GRE. I said, what does that? I said, when did you even start this process? So anyway, that's how she went to Abuja, took exam, was admitted to do a master's in education at Harvard, and we had 3 young children. This is 2012. The oldest child is 10 years, the other one is 9, the other one is 2012 minus 5, 7 years. So we took her to the airport and dropped off. I didn't have enough sense to know the meaning of a wife traveling abroad. I didn't pray, I didn't think about it. All I just knew, I knew enough about marriage that you can't be married to a partner that wants to do something and you're stopping them. Because if you stop your wife from being who she wants to be, you will just have an unhappy home. Because the wife is the thermometer of the home. So I knew that if you are married to a woman, you have to be helping her do what she wants to do, as long as it's not sinful, right? She wants to go abroad to study. I said, fine, but I didn't think, what does it really mean to go abroad? So we dropped her off. And now driving back, I'm sure I'm driving myself, or maybe Pastor Godwin that said maybe driving me. This is 2012. Pastor Godwin is driving me because he's been working with me for 20 years, from 2005. So he was driving us home. No, we had 2 cars. Maybe he was driving behind me. So we're going home. It just dawned on me. Tomorrow morning, I'm the one going to dress these people up. The house where I was growing up with my wife, when I wake up in the morning, I just focus on me, just dress up and be going. They'll be running up and down, up and down. I said, it's not my business. So. You never say, help this one. I just do small, I'll take off. It just don't know me that this woman, it don't go with that. So when I woke up in the morning, I say, God, why I think about you? But God gave me some sense. So I called Pastor Godwin. I said, look, there are 2 cars. My wife used to drive this one. I give it to you. It's for school runs. You are the children. Whatever you do with them, I will just go to work, come back, do some homework. And God was kind. He was so responsible that for 1 full year, I never got a call. My children were never stranded. And then my wife finished that 1 year. And instead of coming back, she said she wants to go further. She has not come back up to now. So from there to PhD. So I was shuttling back and forth. Then COVID came, and then I was trapped there. But what happened was that at some point in 2017, she applied for permanent residence through a program they called non-interest waiver, NIW. That means maybe an alien with extraordinary ability, because now she has 2 master's degree from MBA from University of Lagos, master's from Harvard, was a master student at Boston College because she was now doing a PhD at Boston College. And they said, you must do a master's. So they said, do a 5-year program. After 2 years, we'll give you a master's. Then after 5 years, you get a PhD. So somehow she used that to apply, and it was successful. She wrote it by herself. So went to the green card process, and we didn't work with any lawyer. In fact, when I got the letter saying that this has been approved, I was visiting and I was in the US. When I received it, like a week after I got the letter, I got a phone call from Nigeria from somebody. He said, oh, God has blessed me. I want to give money to your ministry. And he said, like 3 million naira. I want to give you 2 million naira. Where he was talking, I did the mathematics between the dollar of the thing, and it was exactly, when I was done, only $200 was left from that money. That means that as I was getting the letter, somebody was funding it. Just said, I have money for you. Doesn't know what I'm doing. That's how I applied for green card. Did that. After 5 years, it was time for citizenship. And I still remember the story. That same partner called me, just send me money. And I said, I'm not expecting money from him. So he called me, he said, do you know I sent you money? And also, I'm not supposed to send you that money. I say, it's God though. Because I said, I'm paying for passports for my whole family. And that money is exactly what I need. It's a true story. So I did that. And we're citizens. So I have dual nationality without struggle. Because God said, I will give it to you so that you can preach the gospel to the ends of the earth. I used to go to Mozambique. I've gone there 5 times. The first 4 times with Nigerian passport. When I come, the way they treat you. The last time I went, I had an American passport. So when I got there, they were even begging me. They said, you don't need to pay anything, but can you just give us $10? At least, how can you just come to this country? You didn't give anything. I was just looking at them. The one that tripped me is going to UK and just talking to nobody. Just once you join the line for America, you just go through the machine. It just opens. You enter the country. Nobody's talking to you. You're not talking to anybody. I said, okay. So this is what God meant to the nations. But why do I tell you this story as a background? Because God is faithful. He's faithful to his word. Many Christians do not know that God is faithful. They say it, but they don't believe it. And he laid a solid foundation. I want to say that many things have happened to me over the years. I've had many encounters But the things that have changed me the most is the fact that the Christian faith is a personal journey. Everybody must make the commitment. Everybody, even though we are in a corporate setting, you have to make the commitment to know God for yourself. You have to go on a journey of God discovery and personal discovery. Because if you don't know God, men in his name will manipulate you.